All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality. Why aren't I coming through? I can't hear myself. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, that's not cool. All right, there we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. This is Tuesday, August 24, 2010. Glad you could be with us here today for the radio show. And just as it happened yesterday, 2 days in a row, right when I go to start the show, everything will be working fine. And then right when we start to go on air, the browser starts to go crazy. Isn't that interesting? Well, nonetheless, we have tons of stuff to talk about today. We have interesting stuff to talk about today. We're also going to be simulcasting. We are simulcasting, not going to be. We are simulcasting right now as well in living color video over at justin.tv/Global Reality. That's justin.tv/Global Reality. And you can catch us over there for the live streaming video broadcast as well. Today's show. I've been doing this on certain shows lately. And today is one of those days where I felt, because of the content that we have to discuss today, this was going to be one of those days where I needed to come on here and do the video cast, simulcast with the radio show today. So we are going to be doing that. So we thank you so much for being with us. This is our fundraising week. We have to reach our goal that's on the chip-in banner. We need to raise about $500. So please support us if you can. We also have the recurring monthly subscription donations up there now. That's going to be the precursor to our members section that we're going to be working on setting up. You can have it set where it'll bill you every month. They take it directly out of your bank account without having to, fuddle with PayPal or have to fuddle with coming in and going to the website every month, every time you want to support us. So that's there for your convenience, as well as a donate button to donate towards the films and all the rest of the work that we need to get done and achieve here. So please support us. This is our fundraising week. So thank you so much. We have so much to talk about today. It's insane. Lots of important things. And I'll be delving into all of them. We've got some, we've also got an audio clip today when we're going to play. You guys are going to freak out. But don't worry. There's a reason why we'll be playing this. Anyway, nonetheless, we're going to jump into this. But again, I just can't stress enough. This is our fundraising week. I don't want to have to hammer this home and yell and scream. But we just have to meet the goal so we can pay the bills. So please support us. Maybe we could cut this off really quickly and not have to have a big fundraising week if we just get it done in one shot. So if you have supported us in the past and you want to come forward again to do that to help us pay the bills this month, please do so. September is going to be a crucial month for us in our work. So thank you so much. A lot of you may be familiar. I found out about this last night and put this in the chat room. This whole thing stinks to high heaven to me, and we're seeing more and more that it appears that not only are they attempting to try and get truthers and patriots and all these types, specifically in America, whipped up into a frenzy. I think it's going well beyond that now. I think it's going beyond. They're trying to do this to the entire planet. I think the whole Civil War, race war scenario is just the compartmentalized version of what they're going to do here in the United States. But what they're going to do on a broader scale is going to be very similar to that, but it's just going to be a different flavor and a different type of thing. But we see that it's happening, more and more. All this stuff coming out as we see Alex Jones and others going more mainstream, and we'll get into some of that as well today. But this I saw last night, and it stunk to high heaven to me. A lot of you may be familiar with the great Zulu shaman and healer Credo Mutwa. He's been documented extensively through the work of David Icke and others. And I always wondered. I always said, well, look, here's my thing. I only base what I think about things and individuals and experience based on what I experience. And I had two very distinct experiences involving David Icke, and both of those experiences led me to believe that he isn't what He isn't what we think he is. Once was when I interviewed him back in 2008, and I felt as if the entire time I was interviewing this guy, I felt as if I was having my energy drained. I felt like I was, an etheric vampire, some sort of energy vampire was a hold of me. I had a splitting migraine headache for hours after that show, and it just didn't feel right. And then last year we went to see him in New Mexico. Same thing. I felt like I was being lulled into a trance as he's standing behind this and standing in front of this platform where, there's lots of room in the auditorium behind him, but you couldn't see what was behind him. I'm sitting there. As soon as I sat down, I was like, how do we know there aren't, beams pointing at us from there? And so, it's all these kind of things. Well, now apparently, and I'll just read this story. And there's a video attached to it, and you can watch it. David Icke looks like he just looks like the criminal returned to the scene of the crime. Now, I'm not going to come out right here and right now and say that David Icke is responsible for this. I have my opinions, and you should have your own opinions as well. And if your opinions don't coincide with mine, that's not an issue. That's not a problem. But the most important thing that we need to all understand is that this is the kind of thing you're going to see happen. And when you think about some of the stuff here, this talks about, I don't know. I just can't help but think this is a direct result of people like David Icke and others going out and exposing these guys in a much larger scale. Or it could be a deeper operation than that. The whole thing could be a fraud, and this could be a ruse to try to get people up in arms and pissed off and mad and wanting revolution against the New World Order, Illuminati, whatever you call it, worldwide. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's all of these things. I don't know, but let's get into it. It says, David Icke and Bill Ryan recently met with Credo Mutwa, the great Zulu shaman, healer, and keeper of African tradition. He told us a horror story. The short version of what happened is this. A few months ago, earlier in 2010, Credo was being pestered daily over the phone by someone who claimed he was from a group of young Zulus about his betrayal of the Zulu nation by talking so much to white people. Exasperated, he put the famous and priceless necklace of the mysteries on his shoulders and took a train to Swaziland to confront the people who were giving him such a hard time. Now, first off, here comes question number one from me. If you were being harassed by someone, I should say you in particular, if you're being harassed by someone, you get a priceless artifact from a tribe that went back thousands of years, and there was only one like it in the world. If you're going to confront someone who was harassing you, would you take a priceless antiquity with you to do it? I have to think not. I have to think you wouldn't take a material possession like that, be it something that may have magical powers, blah blah blah. Whatever. Regardless of that, if it does have magical powers, that would be even more of a reason why you wouldn't want to take it with you, wouldn't it? Unless this thing just, shoots particle beams out of it and fucking evaporates bad guys on the spot, there would be no reason to take it. And according to this story, this necklace does not evaporate bad guys on the spot. So that's my question number one. That sounds shaky and weird, and I think if any criminal investigator or someone looking into a crime in law enforcement would think that was a red flag. I would have to think they would 100%. So he says that he arrived in Swaziland to confront the people who were giving such a hard time. When he arrived, he was set upon and tortured. They started pulling his fingernails out with pliers. The necklace was taken from him, and he was put on a train back home. And the background throughout all of this was a white man whom Credo did not recognize. Now, you notice how they're trying to, that slowly, subtly, because you know how you see in the movies, like in Oliver Stone's JFK, when they're doing the autopsy on him, and there's some white-haired general guy standing in the background who doesn't speak, and he's just watching and observing everything goes on. We've seen that. The X-Files, you'll have the sort of the syndicate and the sort of Illuminati guy, standing in the background, observing as the things going on. See, those are things we've seen in films, right? I'm not saying that that's not possible. I believe 100% the Illuminati exists. I believe that they are doing things, and there are people like this. What I'm saying is, am I the only one that feels like that just sounds like it's a bad movie plot. I don't know. Again, you need to watch the video that's attached to this thing because the video speaks 1,000 words more than I can. Ike doesn't look believable in it. Credo Mutwa looks like he's lying out of his ass. Watch his mannerisms. He does this. He's going like every time he gets to a critical point, he's doing this thing, scratching his beard and stuff. Watch his mannerisms, dude. He looks like a guy who's not telling the truth. I'm giving you my completely unbiased professional opinion here. Something about this stinks. It says, if you know anything about the theft of this priceless ancient artifact or inestimable value of the history of Africa and the human race, but now very likely in the hands of white men who are only interested in money, please contact David Icke. Why is it that if you have information regarding this, you should contact David Icke? Why not Interpol or some, or some African law enforcement agency? Why is it anybody with answers needs to contact David? That seems shady to me. And not only that, it's fallen into the hands of white men who are only interested in money. Okay, well, maybe my research differs from yours, and maybe my research differs from David Icke or Credo Mutwa's, but as far as I understand, anybody with a rudimentary knowledge of the system knows that it's not just white men only interested in money. I mean, give me a fucking break. That's such a that's a kindergarten point of view. Your average American, your average citizen knows that it's beyond just white men interested in money anymore. You know what I mean? That doesn't. I don't know, man. This smells like a fucking op to me. I don't know. I don't know what the gain would be from this, other than to. It just seemed interesting to me that. You notice how these guys? It just seems like. I don't know. If David Icke is. Let me tell you something. Here's the thing. Not 2 days before this came out. I saw another email from David Icke from his newsletter that said, that ran the old story again about that I thought was over 4 or 5 years ago with his guy who had he apparently had a publisher in the United States who took all the rights to his books and took all his money. And then I guess apparently he's had another person in his organization fuck him over again. And I'm sitting here going, dude, number one, if what you do is so big and brings in so much cash and has such a huge reach that you can't run it yourself, then what does that say about you and your connections and your backing and your resources and who you're getting them from? You see what I mean? I got to tell you, folks, I run everything. I have zero help with what I do with my radio show, with the website. Besides, Man Hydra runs the website, but I don't have a team of people that work for me and ferret out info for me and run my finances and I do all that myself. I'll ship the DVDs out myself. I'll put them in the case. I do it all. I'm the shipping department. I'm customer service. I'm the editor. I'm the the jack of all trades. I'm just saying, if you reach the point in it where you cannot manage your own finances, manage your own book deals, and without having to have somebody else do it for you, and then you get fucked over not once but twice. Okay, not only what does that say about you, but that should bring all your credibility in question. If you can't run your, if you can't run putting out books and doing speaking presentations, guy doesn't even do a radio show or run a fucking radio network. You know what I mean? That's a 24/7 job right there. What I'm saying is, how can you take anything the guy says and has any credibility in it if he can't keep his personal finances and his books and everything straight by himself? He has to have a team of people do it, then he gets fucked over. It just seems weird. And then 2 days later comes out with it. It just seems like there's what they're doing is they're changing the operation right now. They're moving it up into a much larger scale, into a much bigger scale of divide and conquer, and they're moving it in. They're moving a lot of these guys much more mainstream. And as those of us who are pointing this out, myself, Lee Rogers, I got to tell you, that show we did last Monday night over there, uncensored on Lee Rogers, but the ripples of that show are still fucking across the water. It's insane, man. That show lit some people up. And I believe that the second 30 minutes of the first hour of the Alex Jones show yesterday, which we are going to play today, is a testament to that. He sounds like he's addressing us 100%. I'll tell you, somebody posted that show on the Conspiracy Central BitTorrent tracker, and I've been a member of that site for about 6 or 7 years, even though most of the people over there are, not all of them, but a lot of the guys over there are, the Jew World Order types. And then, you'll get people come through and say, look, I've been researching this stuff for 35 years. They're middle management to the Jesuits and the rest of stuff. And then a big battle ensues. But I got to tell you, in about 6 or 7 years of being a member of that BitTorrent tracker site, I have never in my life seen the thread, and I've seen some big ones, especially most of the time they're all about Alex Jones. I have never in my life ever seen a torrent with that many comments on it. It's got, I don't know, God, how many hundreds of comments on it. I think last I checked, it was up to almost 300 and something or 400 and something comments. I mean, it just lit people up. And so I think his show yesterday was a direct result of that. And another thing, we'll talk about this as well, but he mentions this in the clip, so I'll go ahead and mention it because people in the chat room were saying, well, I want to hear what Josh has to say about this, because apparently Muse, the band Muse, rock band Muse, put links to Alex Jones, Prison Planet, InfoWars, stuff on their website. And look, I'm going to say, if I said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. If I disliked every single musician because of their politics that I didn't agree with, I would have no music to listen to. You understand that? Of course, Muse works within the system. And of course, Matt Bellamy, of course, whose brother was or his uncle was killed in the Irish Republican Army. He's a Catholic, dude. And every time Alex Jones starts getting exposed on a grand scale, what does he do? He rolls out one of his Catholic celebrity friends to come and say, oh, look at me. Celebrities love me, as if any of us give a rat's ass. I don't give a rat's ass what these celebrities think. Again, they've never donated money to networks like this, or they don't give a fuck about helping the alternative. All they do is all they want to do is they're being used and being told to do this by their handlers. You understand? When you reach the level of success that Muse is at, even though your personal morals might be good, you are still subservient, and you will willfully submit to that if you truly know your game. For instance, there are a lot of musicians, including myself, who, if we were ever put in a position where we were going to be signed to a record label, we would know 100% from Jump Street, if we signed a record contract, that who and what we were going to be controlled by, 100%. But you would be willfully submitting yourself to that, just like you willfully submit to using a debit card, or you willfully submit, to paying your electric bill, or you willfully submit to putting gas in your car at the price they tell you at, or willfully submit buying food and water from them. You see what I mean? So these guys, of course, they're in a system that's controlled by the priest class, by the bankers, and the rest of it. And you are subservient to that. And so a lot of people that, aren't necessarily working for the bad guys, or necessarily, a part of a secret society, the OTO, or necessarily that, you got to understand that when you want to get when your message needs to get out to a much larger crowd at some point, you realize that, okay, these guys own the game, and I have to play their game, and I have to play in their system, but that doesn't mean I have to agree with it or like it or be a minion to it. They control the game, and if you want to play in that game, you have to play with them running and controlling it. Now, if you are lucky enough to get a platform like that, then you can use it to try and get people word out to people. So let's not confuse apples and oranges here. The issue is not whether or not Muse is questionable. I mean, everyone wants me to think that they're questionable or somehow renounce them. I'm not going to renounce the guys. I met them in Austin back in 2006. I thought they were great dudes. They were really fucking cool and nice. I love their music. I've been listening to them for 10 years. I'm not going to just say up and fucking I don't like their music anymore, because, again, Pearl Jam, love Pearl Jam, communists. Steve Earle, we play his music here, fuck the FCC and the Revolution Starts Now. He has a fucking sickle and hammer and stars. He has fucking Russian commie shit on his bass drums at his shows. You know, Neil Young, admitted communist. I mean, on and on and on. If I didn't like every musician because of their politics, I would have no music to listen to. That's just the fact of the matter. So I don't confuse those things with music, and I don't confuse politics with music and music with politics. I like music, and when I like your music, it doesn't have anything to do with the New World Order or anything else. If I say, man, I like your music, that means that on some level, it touched my soul, and it touched me to some reason where it affected me in a way, and affected me in a way that I hadn't been affected before I heard that song. That's a totally different game. That's totally different, man. That's the whole thing. The real issue here is not about Muse and not about any of this. So the real issue here is that every time that motherfucker enchilada eater down there in Austin gets his ass roasted in public, he rolls out one of his Catholic-oriented celebrities. And then, look, if you're the best at something and you're number one, right? If you're the big dog on the block, do you have to assert that to people in public? Meaning, if no one is a threat to you, if you're so mega huge, mega popular, the biggest reach, the biggest amount of money, the biggest amount of support, the best at top of your game, would you have the need to go out and publicly talk about why you're so good? No. You just continue to do what got you there and keep kicking ass and taking names. So this is the whole problem that I have. And of course, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do this, but it's going to be enjoyable because I'll give you my analysis. We're going to play. Lee Rogers came in the chat room last night and said, hey, if you hadn't heard this, go check this out. It's a good kick. I personally think from listening to this that he's talking directly about people like me and Lee and others. It's just hilarious. This guy talks about why it's great that celebrities support him. He talks about how that he sets the market. And if it wasn't for him, guys like us wouldn't even have 1/10 of the listeners we have, blah, blah, blah. Look, buddy, that's the problem right there. That's the fucking problem. You view this as a market. This ain't a fucking market to people, guys like me. Okay? This is fucking life and death. This is serious shit. We don't fucking see this as a market. What market? If you view something as a market, that means you're making fucking money off of it. Okay? This isn't a market, Bubba. This is doing what we got to do to fucking pull mankind out of this sludge that fuckers like you are trying to delve us down into. And I'm not going to have it. A market. It must be, you know what? That right there. You know, if you can view something you do, your particular output, be it as a radio host or a filmmaker or something, as a market, then why would you feel the need to even have to address the competition? The fact of the matter is, we are hurting this guy, and we are hurting this guy bad. Because again, if you're the tip top and you're the number one and you're the big dog and nobody's a threat to you, nobody can come near touching you, nobody else has the numbers you have, nobody else has as many website hits or video views as you, you're a top dog, then why even worry about somebody who's, you know, got a couple hundred listeners a day, or when you've got thousands or millions or whatever it is? And notice that he'll also, we're speaking of Alex Jones, of course. Notice in here, he mentions, he says he does two things to reveal what Lee and I have been saying about how they're taking mainstream. There's two specific things in this clip that he reveals. Pay attention and you'll catch them. And that's the reason I'm going to play this, and that's the reason I want you to listen to this, because I want you to listen to his voice. I want you to listen to what he says and listen close. Two things he says. Number one, he talks about one of his articles that's posted up on drudgereport.com, and he says, good, that's a good thing, where it deserves to be, something to that effect, where it should be. Posted up on Drudge Report, where it should be. Okay, well, Drudge Report's very mainstream, so he's embracing that. Number one, that's a giveaway. Then he goes on to say that he has sources inside of Fox News that have told him that Glenn Beck has 5 separate people a day listening to his broadcast to see what he talks about, so then he can put it into his stuff. Now, what Alex Jones always does, as he always does, he assumes that you and me are so goddamn stupid and don't know how media works, and we've never done our own research. He always says, do your own research, do your own research. But then he reveals himself by saying stuff like, well, look, here's the fact, folks. We know that right there is an admission of handlers and people working back and forth. They're trading intel back and forth to make it seamless so that the things that Alex Jones talks about on his radio show and then what Glenn Beck talks about seem like bigger talking points within the right wing. That's a classic intelligence ops. He reveals that. And he says he has or sources inside Fox News. Really? Dude, if I got up here and told you that I had a source inside Fox News, I would never expect you to trust me ever again. You don't get a source inside Fox News, folks, unless you're working for the Pentagon. You realize that? The Pentagon controls Fox News, and Rupert Murdoch is a sovereign military order of Malta member, which then again ties Jones back to the sovereign military order of Malta for the umpteenth thousandth time. How much more is this going to take? How long am I and Lee Rogers going to have to get up here and show you the thousands of connections of this guy back to these organizations? I don't know. I guess till we're absolutely blue in the face. Anyway, let's listen to this clip of this piece of shit, and I'll hop in here and pause it and jump in with my commentary as well to make it even more interesting. So get your barf bags ready and your bullshit detectors out. This is Alex Jones. Here it is. Suck it, fat boy. Suck it, Jones. Suck my cock. This is the Dark Lord Satan talking. Suck it, Jones. All right, notice how he's spinning this. Notice how he starts out with one thing, then he spins it into another, and notice how he's trying to spin and say, "Well, it's just these people don't have love," and he's trying to play. He tries to do this thing where he tries to play the jealousy card. Okay, we are researchers first and foremost. All of us who decided to get involved in this and dedicate this did so because we wanted the truth, and unfortunately, sometimes that truth is not always what you want it to be. That's the problem. And you have one of two choices whenever you're confronted with something like this. You can either embrace it and accept it and get over it and realize that there can't be any sacred cows when it comes to this kind of stuff, or you can choose to ignore it, stick your head in the sand like an ostrich, and then suffer the consequences. And so this is a very carefully orchestrated operation here, in which, again, if you were tip top and you were number one, if I was number one guy on the block and I had, what this guy allegedly has, I personally don't believe in his numbers, or I don't believe anything. I don't believe anything this guy puts out is based in reality. Not one bit of it. I don't believe it. I don't believe his radio numbers are accurate. I don't believe his video numbers on his hits on his YouTube channels are accurate. I don't believe any of it's real. I believe it's all phony, personally. Because again, if you did have that many hits, man, if my stuff was where his stuff is at, I would never have the need to address what, some other radio host on some other network was saying about. But why would you care? If you're number one and nobody's a threat to you, then why even address it? You see? So this is a way that he tries to deflect and dissuade. Because I'm telling you, that show that Lee and I did last Monday night, I mean, that thing has done some damage, and this is a direct response to that. I believe 100%, especially after seeing that show posted on Conspiracy Central and seeing that thread get more hits than I've ever seen in 7 years of being a member over there, any get. And, we just blew the doors off with that show, man, and I think it hurt them bad. I think that's what this is a direct response to. So let's continue on with the ass clown here. Here it is. Okay, stop right there. Okay, wait. You notice how he says that? He never any admission that he's ever even remotely done anything wrong. Never any admissions about taking down networks. Never about calling sponsors and telling them not to sponsor certain shows. This is before. Look, this kind of stuff where he was calling sponsors and telling sponsors not to sponsor like certain radio shows and networks that people like myself and Lee Rogers have been involved in. This goes back to the days when we were on True Net Radio back in 2007. At that time, when he did that, Lee and I were still sort of on the bandwagon of the truther stuff. We hadn't even, none of us had even ever gone on our shows and publicly said anything about Alex Jones when he started doing it. That's why it was such a shock to us when we first started hearing that. We were like, why would he do this? You know, we support the guy. We bought his movies, blah, 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 blah. Why would, so that right there, I can tell you from my personal experience, Lee can back me up on this. So can any of the guys over at Oracle who were back on TrueNet Radio. My sister can vouch for this. She was getting the sponsors for TrueNet Radio at that time. He was coming and attacking us and trying to keep our livelihood and keep us from growing before we ever said one single solitary negative word about him. And I have multiple witnesses, at least 10, that can back that up. Okay? So that right there is a complete lie, what he just said. Trying to say, oh, it's 80% of people he's tried to build up have come back and attacked him, and it's all because they realize how big his show is. No, dude, it's because people come on your show and you say, if you plug the radio network that you do a radio show on while you're during this interview, I will terminate the interview immediately and you will no longer be back on my radio show. That's happened. Or you can come on my show, but you can't talk about certain topics. He said that to Sarian and Freeman. He tried to get $16,000 out of Chris Everard to come on and talk about his Illuminati films. You see, he's running a racket, folks, and he doesn't want any he sees his racket coming to an end. And I guarantee you, we've heard him in a much bigger way. And here's how ops and feds and the spooks, this is how they work. They want to, when they set up an operation, their goal is for that operation to be self-sustainable, meaning they want to set up an operation and then they want that operation to basically pay for itself. And when they have to come in and pump more money, I made this analogy, same analogy on a different, well, I think maybe it was a similar point, but I made the same analogy over on Lee's show last Monday night. What we're talking about, why Jones is talking about this, I'm sure, to THX 1138 with George Lucas and how when they're chasing Robert Duvall, it says that there's a budget of how much money is going into his to pursuing him, and if it goes over that budget, then they don't pursue him anymore. That's kind of how these spook operations work. If the federal government has to come in and pump more money and dollars into an operation, they don't see that operation as a successful operation. They shut it down. And in the case of somebody like Alex Jones, the shutting down of the operation could very well mean that they terminate him. You know what I mean? And I think he well knows that. And so if his operation starts to lose money and the federal government believes that it's not a self-sustainable operation anymore, meaning, he's not getting, basically when he's getting money in for videos, is if they allow him to produce all this stuff and put it out, that's why he can have sources inside Fox News, as he says, and sources inside the White House, as I've heard him say before. Somebody pointed out a minute ago that he said his family goes back to the Mayflower. Right there, that proves that he's a bloodline. What more do you need? But what I'm saying is I think he's in fear that they may pull the plug on his operation, which very well could mean the demise of him, and then they'll just martyr him and say, oh, yeah, he's a great patriot. And then they'll have another puppet in his place. I think that's what's going on here. I think that he knows full well that if they pull the plug on his operation due to the fact that he's been overexposed, well, may not be good news for Jonesy. Let's continue. Okay, anger, pulling her hair and their hair out with anger, jealousy, and disgust. Again, no sort of image. I mean, it boggles my mind. This guy can, he tries to manipulate reality in his favor. No one is pulling their hair out of jealousy, anger, of disgust with this guy. But he has become a significant part of the grand scheme of this entire master plan of global government and the rest of it. I mean, I hate to have to break that to you truthers out there, but the fact of the matter is, he has become a significant part of this because his operations and the things that he's saying and his actions and the people that he's involved with in these different groups and the Vatican and the CMP and the rest of it, he is ensuring that civil unrest and bloodshed and death and destruction and all this stuff come to fruition through trying to engineer armed conflict. Don't you get that? I mean, notice how he never addresses this thing about the coming civil war and the race war and stuff. He just tells everybody, this is the resistance, this is the blah, blah, blah against tyranny. Right, because if you ever find out, and you're going to find out here really very soon, how the Jesuits were completely involved in cooking up the first American Civil War, and then the correlation to how they're doing it now with these same people that connect back to the Jesuit Order, the John Birch Society. Ha, ha, ha. Not a coincidence, folks. It's unbelievable how he will try to manipulate and skew reality in his favor. But let's continue to listen to this piece of shit. Here it is. Wait. Sorry, I had the voice pitch shifter on. No, sorry about that. No, did you hear that? Did you hear that double speak? He said, even if you don't like what I do, if you look at it from a business perspective, we're setting the market, so you should be grateful for that. Then he says, these people, the people who oppose him, look at this from a business perspective, which is the wrong way to look at it. Now, wait a second. That's total doublespeak. I mean, that was clear and present doublespeak right there. First, listen to it again. Let me see if I can back it up. I want you to hear what he says. He says, first off, that from a business perspective, he's helping and he's setting the market, so we all should be grateful. Then he turns around and says that the people who are detracting from him view it as a business. No, that's not what you said the first time, Bubba. That's not what you said. Let's see if we can back that up and hear that again. Suck Satan's cock. So wait right there. Wait. He first off, he says he's been on a 15-minute tirade about why people who expose him are bad, and we just need to. And then he goes on to say, well, actually, it's actually good for me. Well, then if it's good for you, Bubba, why the fuck are you having a problem with it? You shouldn't even be having this conversation right now if it's good for you. Oh, they're such a detriment. Oh, man, this, that, and the other. No, they're just jealous, but it's good. They're jealous, but it's good for me. Doublespeak after doublespeak. This is how ignorant he believes his listeners are, and with good reason, because most of them are ignorant if they haven't woken up to this guy yet. A lot of them just haven't had access to it yet, but the day is coming. The day is coming very soon. That's about all I can stomach of that piece of shit, honestly. You know what it is. Go if you want to go back and listen to it, go back and listen to the second half hour of his show from yesterday, and you can hear the whole thing in its entirety. I want to start with that, and then the whole thing. I think that coming out back to back with the Credo Mutwa stuff, and how now Credo Mutwa is got kidnapped and tortured by the Illuminati and had his necklace taken away. You know, just coincidentally after people like David Icke had been down there going and seeing him. I mean, come on. You see what this is? This is beyond just trying to get people up in arms in this country anymore and for a new civil war in this country. They are trying to get people enraged and people who know about this information all over the world, in the UK and everywhere else. And this is why now they're starting to use their operatives like Icke to try and get those people enraged because, you know, it's a different operation. Here it's the new American Civil War. Over in the Europe and the rest of that, it's the dissolution of the EU and all this other stuff. I mean, they're really, really going forward with this. But we have a ton of news today to get into that doesn't have anything to do with these fucking dumbass retards of the Patriot movement. God damn. I thank them, though. I mean, they have really cut down my entertainment expenses. You know, I don't have to rent movies anymore or go to the movies or anything else because I have a constant source of free entertainment every day by being able to get up here and document this stuff. So thank you. Thank you so much. Anyway, this is our fundraising week. We need to raise the rest of the money. We need to raise about $500 on the chip and banner there. So please donate and support if you can. The donate button is there for the film, Seabright Volume 2. If you want to help us push to get that out, you can donate there. And we also have the recurring monthly donation box now where you can just put in one amount and it'll take it out every month automatically. You don't have to come back and do a donation every month. So there you go. There's that. We are going to take a break and come back here in just a few minutes. This is the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network with me, your host, Josh Reeves. Stay with us. Back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us here today. For this Tuesday edition of the show, it is Tuesday, August 24, 2010. Glad you could join us and be here with us today. And after we had an hour of covering all that ridiculous nonsense, we are now going to, in this segment of the broadcast, be getting into news and information of the day. So we're glad you could be here with us. And this is our fundraising week, so please act accordingly there at the website, theglobalreality.com, where this broadcast originates from. And the chat room is open as well for your convenience. I wanted to mention this before I moved on to the news. I was talking about the thread on Conspiracy Central of Lee Rogers and the show that Lee Rogers and I did. It's funny. It's just the links at which people will go to not give me any attention is funny, and I don't care. I mean, as I talked about the other day, people are going to find this information. People are going to find my work one way or the other. But what I'm saying is that I've noticed that there's a very concentrated effort by people in the Truther and Patriot communities to not give any attention to my work and what I do, even though I was talking about this CMP stuff and exposing all of it before anybody was. And but it's funny, even the fact that the guy whoever posted this, posted the radio show, you wouldn't even know it was the show that Lee and I did unless you went to try and download it. Because he didn't anywhere on the torrent put that I was the guest or anything else. It was just says Lee Rogers exposes Alex Jones. Well, that could be fucking 5 days a week. That could be any goddamn show. You know what I mean? Lee exposes that son of a bitch 5 days a fucking week. 4 or 5 days a week, whatever it is, most of the time. So it's like, how would we even know? But anyway, that's not really the point. The point is that in the thread, hundreds and hundreds of comments, but never one. And this is how you can tell most of these are operatives and probably Jones plants that are paid to go in and comment on websites, which we know that there are. But never once in that thread I went through every single comment, and I did not find one single comment in there that addressed Lee or I by name, much less attempted to, with any hard facts, refute any of the information in the 3-hour commercial-free presentation that we did, which tells me that the majority of those people that are commenting on that thread didn't even listen to the fucking broadcast. It just says Alex Jones exposed, and so here comes the operatives, and here comes, a lot of them are operatives, a lot of them aren't. Some of them are just fucking Kool-Aid drinkers. And here they come, and they just, they just hammer away. It's the same thing with, I've told you about over a couple of weeks, this concerted effort against my William Shatner video where he talks about witnessing what we know were the models that were used to simulate and fake the Apollo moon landings. And I have it set now, but it was getting out of control, so I had to have it set where I have to approve the comments before they go on there. But when I didn't, there was something like 20 or 30 comments a day, sometimes 50 comments a day, saying, oh, what horse shit it is, this, that, and the other. But yet I was noticing that 30 to 50 comments a day over the span of a couple of months, but yet the views on the video, the number of views on the video were not going up, which is telling me that people were not actually watching the video, and the people that were commenting were not commenting on that as a direct result of watching the video and arguing with it. This is a concerted effort to just try and leave comments and comment bomb, much in the same way that we've heard about the dig brigades, which we covered here a couple of weeks ago, has been traced back to right-wing organizations, as it always does. And so we see the same thing here, I think, with this BitTorrent thing of the show that Lee and I did. Again, never once addressing Lee or I or any of the information we put out, just a bickering back and forth over, I love Alex Jones, he's the greatest. I hate Alex Jones, he's a Zionist. Blah, blah. And that's not what any of us are trying to do here. But you notice how Jones, in his clip that we played there earlier, tried to make it appear that is indeed the case, that we are trying to just foment some argument. No, what he wants is that. What he wants is he wants people who, I love him, he's greatest. I hate him, he's a Zionist. What they don't want are people coming with information that not only ties Jones down to this stuff, but also exposes the grander and larger operation here, which is the most important thing. He is but a symptom of a much greater disease. He is but just one tiny part of this bigger operation that exposes the John Birch Society, which inadvertently exposes people like Ron Paul, and then people like Jack McGlam and Stan Monteith, and on and on and on, and Paul Craig Roberts, and all these people who are now being brought into the forefront for this engineered phony revolution. And so that's the real issue, and that's what needs to be focused on. But see, they always try to drag people, and again, it just drives them crazy to not be able to steer the conversation and to steer the mindset the way they want to. So as soon as the mindset starts going and being about, okay, well, I watched The Secret Riot, or I heard Lee Rogers show, and so now I want to fucking find out about the CMP and find out about these different tentacles, and then find out about the Jesuit order, and find out about the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, and find out how, why is it that Jones is affiliated with all these people who were there in the formation of the Central Intelligence Agency and the John Birch Society, and, his uncle's in the John Birch Society, in midst of having people who are relatives in the FBI. I mean, you see, those, and then, of course, the bigger stuff, like Recovering Secret Right 2, the connection to Adana Khashoggi, the Bronfman banking empire, on and on. You see, those are the bigger things. Those are the bigger fish that we're going after when we attempt to expose this stuff and to expose people like Alex Jones. It's not about trying, he's the greatest. I think he sucks. I think he's the greatest. You're wrong. No, you're wrong. Let's fight. I'm butthurt. Let's get on an internet forum and flame each other. Yeah. And there's become a whole subculture of that, which I've documented and talked about here. It's a whole subculture of people who don't do anything but just get on internet forums and flame each other. I mean, it's worse than fucking people who just play World of Warcraft 24/7. It's sicker and more sadistic than that. So that's what I wanted to make very, very clear here and go on the record and say is that this is about exposing a much larger operation and not about exposing, just exposing Alex Jones or his shenanigans or the rest of it. He has become a significant player and has been for some time in a much grander operation that needs to be exposed. And so that's why, I don't want to have to talk about this clown or listen to anything the guy has to say any more than you do, believe me. But unfortunately, it's a necessary part of exposing a much bigger operation, and I want each and everybody, I know Lee feels the same way because he's told me this as well. I just want everybody to know that what I'm doing here and what Lee is doing, I know, is coming from a point where we're trying to expose a much grander operation that has to do with the grand scope of the New World Order, the Illuminati, world government, global enslavement, engineering, the end times, and the Book of Revelation scenarios, which you're trying to do. That's what this is really about. Unfortunately, we have to document what some of these guys like him are doing sometimes because the big numbers of people that could wake up around the planet to the much broader game are being inadvertently siphoned off into another control mechanism. And that is, as soon as I realized that was going on, I realized that I didn't have a choice, that I had to expose it. And thankfully, a lot more people have figured it out now, and that's good for all of us. But that's what it's really about, and I wanted to be crystal clear on that before we jump into all of the day's news. So let's jump right into that now. Here we go. Strap in, everybody. We got a ton of it today. Let me go through my list. This has been a crazy news week, hasn't it? I mean, we're only at Tuesday, and I feel like I've already done 20 hours of radio this week. We did the Sunday night report and the Monday, and then yesterday, 2 days of hard, heavy-hitting news. It's been insane. I got to cover this. I got to cover this. Maybe it's not a big, huge story in the grand scope of everything, but something I found today, and I haven't seen it posted on the other websites. I need to get, before I even read it, I need to get links in this in the chat room. I don't know. I saw Lee in there earlier. Lee, if you're still listening, dude, check into the chat room and get this link I'm about to put in the chat room. It's Elwood City Ledger. If you're in there, go ahead and grab that. I'm gonna read that now. This is a very interesting article here. You guys will enjoy this. It says, Let me get back to it. Scroll through all my tabs. Freemasons open up. When it comes to Freemasonry, Bill Alberts has heard it all before. Tales of baby or farm animal sacrifices, of being an ancient cult or a top secret organization on a mission to control people's lives. A secret society trying to establish a new world order. Basically anything you can think of, said Alberts, the worshipful master of the St. James Lodge in Bridgewater. Some of the myth is not harmful, but it's just not right, said Muth, master of a Parian lodge in Beaver Falls. One of the nastiest that Alberts and Muth have heard is that Jack the Ripper was a Freemason because of the ritualistic way he killed some of his victims. Okay, so carving... I'm sorry. Carving Masonic rituals into the bodies of your murder victims is not... is not a ritualistic Freemasonic killing. Okay. The fact that you had the Churchill and all that stuff, and it was the father of Winston Churchill. I mean, give me a break. Now listen to this. Now this goes against everything that real Freemasons have said. I've encountered a few Freemasons in my time, and they've always told me, and they'll tell you this. My sister's encountered some places where she's worked, and they said, "Oh, we're not a secret society. The secret is there are no secrets," right? They always say that. I've heard dozens of these guys say that. Well, listen to what this one says. He has a different spin. He says, we're not a secret society. We're a society with secrets. Now, wait a minute. That's a bit contradictory, isn't it, to what we've heard other Freemasons say? Usually they say, oh, no, the big secret is we don't have any secrets. This guy says we're not a secret society. We're a society with secrets, indicating they do have. See, and this is all a part of the same thing that I've talked about before. Freemasonry was absorbed into Rome and into the priest class and the Vatican structure going back to 1776 when Weishaupt was ordered to go and infiltrate the Masonic lodges, specifically in Scotland, where the Knights Templar fled to, and his job was essentially to go and find out their secrets and then bring that and absorb that into the Catholic Church. That's what his mission was. And so ever since that happened, aside from the teachings, which are about transcending the death of the physical body and ascending to another realm of existence and not reincarnating back down onto Earth, in another one of these fragile human bodies. That's what Rosicrucianism is about. I hate to have to bust the bubble on you. I hate to have to ruin the plot line for all those of you out there that may have been waiting with bated breath to find out what the secrets of Freemasonry and Rosicrucians are. I've read their writings. I've read fucking Morals and Dogma 3 or 4 times. I've read it on air once, I think. I've read the Rosicrucian teachings there. It's all about transcending the death of the physical body. That's why the Rosicrucian symbol is the flower on the cross, and it represents the soul being crucified on the body, which is exactly what we were talking about yesterday, spiritual bondage and enslavement. That's what they know. They know, going back to the original ancient secret societies of the Brotherhood of the Snake, they know that we are spiritual entities that are being trapped and contained in these physical bodies. And the secret societies teach how to transcend that and not be trapped back in that, and that's why they wanted to keep that a secret. And I believe that's what the Age of Awakening has to do with. I believe that's, personally, as I told you the other day, that, really the whole 2012 thing to me at this point really doesn't matter, even though I have my own specific opinions on it, but I don't expect you to have the same opinions I do on it, even though I'll tell you what those opinions are. And I believe it has to do with the spiritual awakening, galactic alignment, the precession of the equinoxes, and transcending the physical plane body and ascending to a higher level plane, I believe, through the fluoride and the mercury and MSG and all the rest of this stuff that studies have come forth and said that it damages your DNA, restricts your DNA, and then we have these terahertz waves scanners at the airport now that are unzipping your DNA. It's all about keeping the DNA from doing something that is programmed inside of it to do at a certain period of time. So that's, that's the whole thing here. So what they're trying to do is, and the reason that you hear so much, it's just so funny to me that the researchers you hear in the truther community, like Stan Monteith and all these guys, that the Freemasons are a evil, satanic, devil-worshipping, blood-drinking society that is working in tandem with the bankers and the governments around the world to set up the New World Order. Well, Bubba, look, those of us who have discernment and have done our research have found out that the Freemasons as they exist today are nothing more but than a society that is set up to teach these secrets that I just told you about in secret and still keep it in a small group. The whole thing that they run the world and all this stuff is a cover not only for the priest class and a cover for the Vatican, who again absorbed Freemasonry into their power structure in 1776, but it's also a cover so that, you know, they don't want everybody learning this stuff. If there aren't souls constantly re-inhabiting down on Earth, folks, then that messes up the order of things for these people. You understand? That's why this stuff was always kept in secret. But that time is over. See, now all of us are going to have access to this information and knowledge, and that's really all it is. It's just information and knowledge. You see, so they're really trying to. Again, you know, that's why Dan Brown stuff is being popularized. They're really pushing now to push Freemasonry as an evil secret society, and Freemasons are really the hidden hand, so that you don't dig deeper on your own and find out who the real hidden hand is, and find out about, you know, entities that aren't necessarily in this three-dimensional five-sense reality that you and I are, you see, and how these people are communicating with those entities and have been for hundreds and hundreds of years. That's the real secret. Let's continue on with this article here on Freemasonry. With the release of Dan Brown's latest book, The Lost Symbol, Muth said a spotlight of mystique is shining on the Freemasons the same way as Brown's The Da Vinci Code placed a new frame on the Catholic Church's Opus Dei and the Lost Symbol. Brown's main protagonist, Harvard professor Robert Langdon, explores the U.S. Capitol in a plot that book reviewers say is reminiscent of the Da Vinci Code and Nicolas Cage's National Treasure movies. Again, another puff piece put out by the Masonic Disney. Of course, that's what the National Treasure movies were. Langdon has to solve cryptic puzzles connected to a Masonic pyramid and other ancient mysteries to help his mentor and save the day. Throw in the Freemasons, and book reviewers say the lost symbol isn't likely to squelch any rumors or deter conspiracy theorists. Exactly. Bingo. That's what I just said. That's what they're doing. A lot of these guys who put out this stuff about the Freemasons being evil are Freemasons. You understand? It's in their best interest for there to be a mystique and for there to be this air of mystery and for people to believe that they really run things. They're more of a puppet cover organization now than they are anything else, even though if you learn their teachings, which you can do on your own without having to go and join one of their little club or anything else, that's what they're trying to do now. They know that people now are waking up to this stuff and figuring out the lies that religion and the priest class have put over their eyes for years. This doesn't make people very comfortable and pisses people off, but and it probably will. But I'm just going to say it because it's the truth. And if you don't believe it's the truth, you just haven't gotten there in your research yet and you haven't found it. But go read what Albert Pike says in Worlds and Dogma about Lucifer. I agree 100% with what he says about that. He says something about, anyway, regardless of what he says about Lucifer in there is, I believe what I found in my own research is 100% true. But we're told that Lucifer is the devil and Lucifer is this dark energy when really what we're told is the guy in the red PJs and Satan are the negative aspects of what can happen to our ego. That's really what it has to do with. And then we're told all this other stuff. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The amount of disinfo flying around, and they know that people are starting to figure this stuff out on their own. So they have to continue to try and keep up the mystique. That's really what they're doing here. It says people get impressions about what we do and who we are. A lot of times it's not correct. Albert says we're trying to open ourselves up a little bit and let people know Freemasons are still here. We're amongst you. Don't hate us. 3 local lodges under the 37th Masonic District hope to dispel some of the crazy myths out there by opening themselves up to the public. An open house Saturday aims to give the public an accurate glimpse of an opportunity to learn about Freemasonry and its place in the community. As Alberts, Muth, and Smith see it, the Masons foster goodwill through charities, building hospitals, and supporting community projects. And through the Masons, other orders exist, such as the Shriners, Demole for boys, and the Order of the Eastern Star and Rainbow Girls for women and girls. They all work to make the world a better place. Muth said, pointing out that local Masons run a child identification program to help parents in missing child cases. Yeah, the Masonic chipping program like they have up in the Boston area. Unbelievable. Pamphlets containing facts about Freemasonry will be handed out to those who attend. A PowerPoint presentation will also play. Oh, so they're gonna have a pamphlets and a slideshow, a PowerPoint presentation about the facts of Freemasonry. God damn! I wish I could be there for that. I'd get some popcorn and a drink, and I'd sit in the front row and be like, "All right, I'm ready for this shit. Lay it on me, sucker." Oh, that's good stuff. Now, we're gonna have pamphlets, and we're gonna have some popcorn, and it's gonna be quaint, and we're gonna show a PowerPoint presentation, and we're to let people know that we're a nice organization. We're Christians, Hail Jobulon. No, I'm kidding. I don't really worship the Dark Lord. Bow down to me, slave. Bow down to me now. No. We're a nice organization. No. It says that Albert said that earlier Freemasons were strict on policies when it came to secrecy, but state lodges have been encouraged by the most worshipful Grand Master who presides in Philadelphia to open up and show ourselves a little bit. Oh, get out there and open up and show yourselves a little bit, boys. Show them what you're really packing behind those aprons. Freemasonry was very important to the forming of our country. Ben Franklin was a Freemason, and with the ties he had with the French, he was able to get the French to come in on the Revolutionary War against England, Albert says. Oh, yeah. Yeah, not that was not oh, come on. Who do you think that those guys were Ben Franklin was taking orders from? Who do you think funded and controlled the Revolutionary War? Who do you think set that whole thing up? I mean, it's ridiculous, man. I mean, you notice that, isn't it interesting that that same sort of you're stupid, you're dumb, you can't possibly know what the French Revolution or the Revolutionary War against England, who that was controlled and put and set up by? Isn't it interesting that same sort of mentality there, so not finding out that, okay, this was set up and controlled by Rome, whole cloth, as most things are. But isn't it interesting that same sort of you're stupid, you're dumb, you can't possibly have done your own research mentality is the exact same as what we were talking about earlier with Alex Jones? Isn't that interesting that both him and the Freemasons here would both be doing that same sort of mentality where, we're going to tell you that this is what it is, and we're going to assume that you don't know what you're talking about and you've never done your research. That's what pisses me off the most. And one of the things that I became more angry about, I think, with all this stuff was because I started finding out that the research that I found on my own was bringing about facts that those guys never brought to the table. Have you ever, do you believe you'll ever hear Alex Jones go on his radio show and say the American Civil War would never have been possible without the sinister influence of the Jesuits and quote Abraham Lincoln? No. Now hear me say this and he'll probably do it, knowing him. Fucking Jonesy. But no, seriously. I mean, you'll never hear him say that. Why? Well, why is that such damaging information? Could it be because, you've had Hutton Gibson on your show, former Jesuit priest, Father Mel Gibson, and then he runs around saying Jew, Jew, Jew all the time and nigger, nigger, nigger this? Oh, no. No race baiting or connection to Nazis there. Not with the Jesuit order. Oh, no. Surely not. Unbelievable. It says that Freemason, we read that part. In fact, Albert said many of America's founding fathers, George Washington, blah, blah, blah. And it says becoming a Mason. It says there are secrets and elaborate initiation ceremonies that date back hundreds of years. Any fraternity has its rituals, Muth said, and with handshakes and emblems known only to its members. Preserving that shroud of secrecy serves a purpose, he said. Masons traditionally identify each other through secret handshake for the purpose of recognition. You see someone who says, hey, I'm a Freemason. They give you the handshake, Albert said. To join the brotherly bonds of the male-only secret society, you have to know another Mason, Albert said. If you think someone you know is a Mason, you can ask him to get you in. That's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily. All you have to do is go up to a Mason and say, I'd like to be a Freemason. And they'll say, okay, come with me. I'll give you the form. That's all you have to do. Last year when me and Jamie went up to Oklahoma City, and we went to the Guthrie Masonic Temple up there, there was a guy who was on the tour with us who was saying that his uncle and some of his family members were Freemasons, and he was interested in being in Freemasonry. And the guy who was on the tour with us, who was a real nice fellow, he was a 32nd degree Scottish Rite and York Rite. He was we had no idea you could actually be both. I thought you had to be one or the other. This guy went to through both of the initiation rituals, because that Guthrie Lodge up there is the only place in the world where you can, like, say you went through the 3 degrees of the Blue Lodge, you can go up there in a weekend and you can go through all the degrees as fast as you want, meaning you could go up there, a 3rd degree or an initiate into Scottish Rite Masonry, and by the time the weekend's over, you can come out a 32nd degree. They're the only lodge in the world that will do that. It's amazing. Anyway, they were, the guy was pulling out a membership form and giving him the information, saying, here's what you got to do. Here's the form, fill this out. The Grand Lodge will look up your family information and verify that, your uncle or grandfather was a Mason, and, then they'll go from there. He made it seem very nonchalant. He even asked me a couple of times. He's like, because I told him about my history with my dad's best friend's father coming forward on the day I was born and sponsoring me with Scottish Rite Hospital, where I had free medical until I was 18, because I was born with a club foot. And I'm sure he didn't do anything like look at the fact that I was born on 7/6 of 76 and right as Sirius was rising now, and then the whole foot thing, and now I'm sure he didn't look at any of that symbology. No, I'm sure that didn't play in at all. or surely doesn't have anything to do with why I've known I had some sort of weird connection to Freemasonry my whole life. How did I know that as a kid? I mean, it's weird. It's almost like it was put there, but that's just absolutely not true. You don't necessarily have to know somebody particularly to be a Freemason. The only stipulation is, they can't recruit you. But this guy was heavily trying to recruit me when we were up there in Oklahoma. He was saying, you're not a member, because when we were on the tour, there was a big, tetragrammaton on the floor. It was engraved in this big marble floor, and somebody on the tour says, hey, what is that? And the Freemason guy goes, oh, it's a symbol for Yahweh. It's kind of fluffing off. I go, well, actually, it's a tetragrammaton. And the Freemason turned around. He's like, yeah, he's right. He's exactly right. I was exactly right. How come you didn't say that, motherfucker? But, after of going through the tour with him, he came back, and we were saying, well, we came down from Dallas, and we really wanted to see the Assyrian room. And he's like, all right, well, follow me. He's like, he told the secretary, honey, give me those keys. I'm going to take them in there. They want to see this. So he took us in the room that wasn't on the tour. And then I said something about, well, you guys are Masons. You guys got to have the blueprints for this place. And he's like, yeah, we do. They're in the basement. It's not on the tour. Follow me. And he took us down to the basement and showed us the blueprints and all the Masonic, the shit that nobody gets to see. He took us down there and let's see it. We walked by this case, and there was a suit, a ritual suit in this case. I've got a picture of it. And there was an ephod chest plate. Now I was like, drool coming up. Jamie's like, come on, let's go. We got to go. He's like, drag me along. I'm like, it's an ephod. What the fuck? My head's about to explode, I felt like I was in the inner sanctum or something, It was wild, man. It's crazy. It's like, whoa. I mean, because you do the research and you look at this stuff. You very rarely believe you'll find yourself in the basement of the world's largest Masonic cathedral on a part of the tour that nobody else normally gets to see. It was kind of wild. But this guy was cool, and he just he kept asking me a couple of times, "You're not a member? Well, you ought to be. You're not a Freemason? You sure you're not a Freemason? You ought to be." And I've had some other people that I've met and known that have been involved in Freemasonry before that aren't anymore, that have said, "Oh yeah, you know more about it than a lot of guys who've been Masons for years." So, they'd shoot your ass up real high up in the chain of command real quick because you know more about it. But that's the whole thing is that we don't have to become members of their group. We can learn this knowledge on our own and be our own individual illuminated fraternities. That's what we need. Is we need a bunch of individual illuminated fraternities of people where it's you and you're the member of your own illuminated fraternity that you're the sole proprietor and member of. That's to me, that's what I think is a much better option. So it's funny, man. These guys sometimes are the source of their own best disinfo. And that's the whole reason why I want to take the time to go through this article and read through this today, was because we hear so much propaganda, we hear so much disinformation coming about Freemasonry or any of these secret societies, and then lo and behold, you have an article like this where these guys are putting out information which we know is not correct. It just seems interesting to me. So again, there it is, and you can read that and post that up on your own time. It's a very interesting article. Again, just strictly because of the fact that these guys seem to be providing their own best disinformation. It's amazing. Anyway, we are going to take a break and come back. And when we come back, we are going to jam through a massive amount of news and information for you here today. We got a lot of news to get into, and boy, it's been a good show so far today. So we will continue on with that here in just a few minutes. This is the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Stay with us. Back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us today. Simulcasting in living video color over at justin.tv/Global Reality. So, hello. How's it going? And big shout out. Thanks to everybody over there listening and watching to us over there on that too. Sometimes you kind of have to, I should have said this earlier. Some people have some problems because the audio feed that comes through Justin TV is a separate audio feed than what is coming over the street. It's essentially the same, but the only problem is if I play clips or music, it doesn't come through the Justin TV stream feed. So that's, you kind of have to toggle back and forth for that. But some days when I'm getting into pertinent information, I like to do the video cast as well so that we can have, the archive of that. And I'll be putting that up on YouTube as well so that all the information that we documented today can be up on the YouTube channel, and then some of the people that may not get to listen to the live show can have that. And every time I put one out, it always seems to have an effect. So there's that. And so again, please support us. This is our fundraising week, and please support us at the website theglobalreality.com. I can see Josh here. Yes, you can see me. Yay. Yeah. But anyway, the chip banner there is the donate button is there for the films. If you'd like to donate towards the Secret Volume 2 or any of our other projects or anything else. And then we also have the new recurring membership donation thing down there at the bottom where you can select. There's 7 different tiers which you can choose from to support us on a monthly basis, and that'll come automatically out of your account. You don't have to worry about doing that every month and there. And we're going to be working on setting up a member section for the broadcast, which is going to be very cool. I just got to work on the logistics of it. I'm going to work on getting a dedicated video server, so we can have basically like our own Justin TV type thing where it's on our own video servers, and then we can show films like we used to back in the day before Justin TV changed it. And we can have exclusive screenings, and we have pre-screenings of the films where members can see the films before anybody else, and have some bonuses stuff there, and free archive discs, MP3 discs for members. Tons of stuff like that. I'm working on getting that set up because it's high time that we had something that would give people more of an incentive to support our work and what we do, and while at the same time providing something that is extra for those folks who week in and week out, and month in and month out support our work and what we do and keep us afloat here. And thank you so much to each and every one of you that support us both monetarily and non-monetarily. We love each and every one of you, and we're so glad that we can be a part of you creating your own universe, your own world, your own little belief structure that isn't based on somebody else's dogma or somebody else's belief system. This is strictly nothing but a platform for me to be able to document and really put out my growth and my expansion of what I'm learning, and so that you can basically see my perspective, and hopefully that will help you gain a greater perspective in your own research and your own work. So there we go. Let's jump into the rest of the news we have today. We do have a lot, so let's continue on with it. Texas slams Obama after Mexico border gun battles. I talked about this yesterday. I mean, I see a foreseeable future where this country could split into multiple little individual countries and blocks. I'm starting to believe that's, almost how it was prior to the first Civil War. I almost see them with this new engineered Civil War going in reverse with that. And, they've talked about, Texas has already talked about seceding from the Union and the rest of this stuff. I mean, if they want to leave, if they want to just make Texas the segregated Republican, right-wing, Christian, crazy state, I'll gladly move somewhere else. I mean, if that ends up being the final solution, I mean, we can do it. You guys can have it. I love this place. I've lived here my whole life. I love Texas, but if you guys really that dead set on doing it, then fucking take it, Bubba. Go ahead and have it. Whatever you want to do. Texas Governor Rick Perry has accused President Barack Obama of gambling with American lives after a bullet believed to be from a gun battle in Mexico hit a building in the U.S. state. For the second time in 2 months, bullets from a gun battle in the escalating drug war in Juarez have struck a building in El Paso, Perry said. Borderzine.com, a website belonging to the University of Texas in El Paso, said the incident occurred Saturday night and a single bullet hit a building belonging to the university. It is unconscionable that the Obama administration is gambling with American lives, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Again, it's always about the symptom and never about the greater disease. The greater disease is that these cartels down in South America and in Mexico have flourished as a direct result of the CIA-sponsored drug trafficking program. Period. That's why these have been allowed to flourish. The CIA pays, and the DEA, oh, you thought it was the, yeah. Well, funny that it would be the Drug Enforcement Agency. Shouldn't it be the Anti-Drug Agency or the Drug Destruction Agency? Why is it the Drug Enforcement? Right, because they are enforcing their drugs upon the American public. That's the whole joke about the fucking DEA and their whole title. Drug Enforcement Agency, not Drug Law Enforcement Agency. It should be the DLEA, but it's not. It's the Drug Enforcement Agency because they are enforcing their drugs upon the American public, sponsored by the CIA. And they're the ones that are responsible for putting these drugs on the street. And basically what they do is you have billions and billions of dollars in the illegal drug traffic trade in the United States of America. And it's almost the same way that the CIA does when they put out a contract where, Halliburton or Brown and Root or Mitsui and Company in Japan or whoever it may be can come in and bid on a specific contract, and whoever bids the highest gets to get that contract, right? Well, same thing here. It's the same thing with the illegal drug trade in Mexico. These guys are vying for who gets the contract to be the main sole importer of the drug trade into the United States. And that's what's going on. And when you throw that much money into a program like that, you are going to destabilize a region, an entire country, and you're going to cause the exact thing that's happening down there. So, Perry and Obama or whoever, they can cry a river and they could sit around and talk about illegal immigration ban, the drug trade, and blah, blah, blah. And this. No, again, going after, they're talking about symptoms and not about the greater disease. And the greater disease is the fact that they are engineering this stuff to happen. So let's move on. Oh, this is rich. You'll love this. What's going on, dude? You tokers out there, I love this. It says some Massachusetts towns are giving up on marijuana enforcement. Some Massachusetts towns have given up enforcing a law that decriminalized the possession of small amounts of marijuana, saying the law is written with too many loopholes to be effective. The law established a civil fine of $100 for those caught with an ounce or less of marijuana. That replaced what had been a criminal offense, carrying a maximum penalty of 6 months in jail and a $500 fine, also for possession of an ounce or less of the drug. It's a plant. But the law, overwhelmingly passed as a ballot measure in November 2008, does not require offenders correctly identify themselves, nor does it provide a way to force them to pay the fines. That has led to a patchwork of enforcement across the state, with some communities handing out hundreds of civil citations and others turning a blind eye to personal marijuana use. A number of communities have tried, but a number have just given up, said Wayne Sampson, executive director of the Massachusetts Chief of Police Association. Police officials say that with most civil citations, such as speeding tickets, there are repercussions for those who don't pay the fines, and in some cases, police can even levy criminal charges against the people who fail to pay, but they cannot do so in the case of possession of less than an ounce of pot. The only recourse for city and town clerks is to take up offenders in small claims court. See, there again, that's the reason they're changing all these laws and they're changing all this stuff around. They're figuring out that there's a lot more money in this stuff, and they're starting to become a lot more money in it through taxation, through legalization, and the fact that they'll have more users of their product if it's legal or decriminalized at least. You're probably going to see more decriminalization than you are going to see full legalization. But, they're starting to figure out that this is a huge way to fund their bigger operations. I've told you many times here on the show about, we covered this, I guess it was 5 or 6 months ago, Germany had rolled out their what is going to be the standard issued identification all over the world. Coincidentally, it just have to come out in Germany first, wouldn't it? Remember I told you about that? Basically the ID card that's the catch-all that has everything from your bank account information. It's connected. It can work as your debit card, to your passport, to your internet driver's license, to everything else. And I told you that they unveiled these. Well, it seems now that they not only are they now officially and have officially, I think, from what I understand from this article here, rolled these out, but they are also admitting that now these do have embedded RFID chips in them as well. The production of the RFID chips, an integral element of the new generation of German identity cards, has started after the government gave a 10-year contract to the chip maker NXP in the Netherlands. Citizens will receive the mandatory new ID cards from the 1st of November. So they start to roll these out in November. This is huge because it goes on to talk about in this article. I'll put a link to it in the chat room before I continue reading this. It goes on to say here that, yes, indeed, these will be tied into what we've talked about with the internet driver's license. And that's what they're moving toward across the board, where being on the internet in the future will be just like it is to drive. There'll be basically a scan barcode reader hooked into every computer, and before you're able to log on to your ISP, you'll have to swipe your card, and then it'll verify that that's you, and then all of your activities and everything that you do will be traced onto that card. And that's why all this stuff is going on with the Mossad-sponsored, George Soros-sponsored WikiLeaks and the big operation there. But let's continue on with this article. It says that the new ID card will contain all personal data on the security chip that can be accessed over a wireless connection. The new card allows German authorities to identify people with speed and accuracy, the government said. These authorities include the police, customs and tax authorities, and, of course, the local registration and passport granting authorities. German companies like Infineon and the Dutch NXP, which operates a large-scale development and manufacturing base in Hamburg, Germany, are global leaders in making RFID security chips. The new electronic ID card, which will gradually replace the old mandatory German ID cards, is one of the largest scale rollouts of RFID cards with extended official and identification functionality. The card will also have extended functionality, including the ability to be able to enable citizens to identify themselves in the internet by using the card with a reading device at home. Bingo, there it is. Again, yesterday's conspiracy theory is today's truth. And just every single day, they prove that to us more and more, don't they? This card will have the extended ability to enable citizens to identify themselves in the internet by using the ID card with a reading device at home. And these reading devices, I was reading about that 4 or 5 years ago, are going to become standard. The internet driver's license is what that is. It is a scan card that goes into your computer, and you have to scan that sucker and swipe it, or otherwise you don't get online. That's the future. That's what they're moving towards, because they've got everybody hooked on the internet now. And this is how they're going to gain total information awareness. After registering an online account bonded to the ID card, you're able to do secure online shopping, downloading music, and most importantly, interact with government authorities online, for example. Oh, most importantly, yeah. Yeah, that's what I want to get on the internet for, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's great. You can download music, you can shop, you can interact with government authorities. Yeah, man, that's what the internet's all about right there. Yeah, way to stick it to the man. Yeah, let's get on and talk to George Soros in the chat room, yeah. What the fuck? Biometric passports in a number of countries are equipped with RFID chips containing a digital picture and fingerprints and have been around for nearly 5 years after the United States required such passports for any person entering the country. There are some concerns that the use of RFID chips will pose a security or privacy risk, however. Yeah, you think? Early versions of the electronic passports using RFID with a protocol called Basic Access Control, BAC, were successfully hacked by university researchers and security experts. The German ID card is using the BAC protocol as well, but only for the basic data which is printed in front of the card. The picture and the name and other fields are protected by a stronger proprietary protocol. Illegal access to the stored data would be useful to create perfectly forged passports and for criminals to use hijacked identities for supposedly secure transactions online. The responsible German ministry, however, cites the many advantages of employing an RFID chip, such as a longer card lifetime, the option to connect them to other future devices like RFID chips and others. So there you go. It is now here. These roll out in Germany in November. So it's again, it's not one of those things where it's coming. It's definitely here. Sidewalk porn offers window into Iraq's chaotic politics. It seems that now that we have effectively brought democracy. Yeah, baby. That's what we do here in America with a K. Yeah. We're going to bomb the fuck out of you. We're going to bomb the shit out of you. We're going to knock you back into the Stone Age. We are going to decimate and commit genocide against millions of people to bring democracy to your country. And the first goddamn thing we're going to do when we get there, we're going to bring porn. You got it, baby. That's what we are here in America. Yeah. The purveyors of fine sexual entertainment all over the planet. Nobody does it bigger and better than America. And boy, it's our contribution is great. Steal the antiquities, kill their people, and then what do we give them back in return? Lots of porn. You can't make this up. You can't. The nude women on the DVD cover in a Baghdad street stall say it all. Change, whether you like it or not, is afoot in Iraq. Hundreds of porn DVDs are stacked elbow deep on a wooden table in Jassim Hanoun's ramshackle stall on a downtown sidewalk. His other tables have Hollywood blockbusters like King Kong, but not surprisingly, it's the sex that sells the best. I've got everything, Hanoun said of his sex selection, flashing the kind of impish grin only a 22-year-old in tight jeans and slick back hair can pull off with any real conviction. What do you want? I've got foreign films, Arab, Iraqi, Indian, celebrities, whatever you like. The porn, in an odd way, has told the story of Iraq's security and political situation since Saddam Hussein's ouster in 2003. It emerged in the anything-goes atmosphere that erupted in the vacuum immediately following the U.S. invasion, then went back into hiding amid the anarchy when armed militias roamed the capital through 2008, targeting those that they saw as immoral. Its reemergence since then reflects how security has improved, but how the fragile government is busy with more pressing issues than spicy videos. No, this is what it's about. It's about the multinational corporations going in and setting up shop and